Hey friends, it's Ray. In a second, I'm going to introduce Mark Clark, and you're going to love this devotional. I have one quick announcement to make is this. We have had people flocking in to register for Thrive. If you're a leader, one of your jobs is to listen. And as people registered for Thrive, one of the things we heard is, I would love to be there the entire time, but I can't be because I work, especially on Thursday. So we just had a massive meeting 2 hours ago. We have moved the entire conference, and we are starting on Thursday night and then going Thursday night all the way through Friday, which means the vast majority of people, you'll be able to get freed up to be there. We're thrilled by that. And one of the reasons we're thrilled is this. The speakers that we are unleashing in this thing are just solid gold. Mark Clark, he's been here before. He's brilliant. His new book on the problem of Jesus is one of the best things ever written outside the Gospels on Jesus. He is coming to Thrive. He's going to be speaking at the conference. We just wanted to give you an early snapshot of Mark Clark. So here we go. Welcome, Mark Clark.
And so they come into a context, actually, the backdrop to these three things is the mission of Jesus. And this is really important. So in Matthew chapter 16, it's a pretty familiar passage. I'm going to pull three things out of it. It says, verse 13, now when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi. And here's one thing that you have to understand, that if you're going through life and you're like, well, I got to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. There's a lot of things you could do with your life. And the reality is there's a guy who wrote a book called The E-Myth. And if some of you are entrepreneurs and you think, I want to do something else with my life, he says 80% of small businesses and ministries fail because a lot of young leaders think to themselves, hey, I want to get into something as a place to go to work. And here's what you've got to understand about ministry. Do not become a leader in life or an influencer because it's a place to go to work. The reason 80% of those things fail is because you have to have something way bigger and way more transcendent to drive you in the difficult times than simply as a place to go to work. Some of you youth pastors, you're there, you're like, man, I could start a church. I could do a better job than my lead pastor does. Raise your hand if you're a youth pastor who thinks that. No, dude, don't do that. I was just joking. But the reality is you got to think through your life and say to yourself, my goodness, I got to figure out if I got to live for something big. I got to figure out what the why is. And if the why is big enough, if the mission is actually big enough, then I'm going to figure out how to do it. Because when the criticism comes, you have to be able to wake up in the morning and do what God has asked you to do when everyone turns on you, which is exactly what happens in ministry and leadership and influence, whether you're a business leader or a church leader. I get criticism all the time. People criticize our church. They come up with random things about our church all the time. There's rumors that fly around of things that we do as Village Church. People made up rumors that we pay people to come to our church, that we actually have a budget line item to get more people in the congregation, so we will pay them and they get their check every month. People said because we have so many young guys at our church that my strategy was to take good-looking women and put them at the Connect desk to draw young men to come to our church. Now, it's not a bad idea. I'm just saying we don't do it. People criticize us for all kinds of stuff. They say we don't like. See, the thing is, I come from a background where I didn't grow up in church. I didn't go to church till I was 19 years old. And so when I was coming into the church and became a Christian and came in all my family, I grew up in a home where my father was so atheistic. He named my brother Matthew, said, I'm going to spell his name with one T as not to be biblical. And then 4 years later named me Mark. So clearly he'd never picked up a Bible. He didn't see the irony in the fact that he just would have gone down the line naming us all biblical names and not having a clue because he hadn't picked up a Bible in his life. And when I became a Christian, I was smoking weed in my buddy's garage. We would sit every Friday night, we'd smoke weed, we asked the big questions of life. I went away for 3 weeks, became a Christian, and then went back and had to defend Christianity to this group of people. I was still high because the garage was closed, but we were still unpacking the kind of things about Jesus that were important. And the reality is so when people criticize me, when Christians in this little bubble criticize, I kind of go, why are we doing this? Like, I come from a world where all my friends, when I became a Christian, they were like, dude, you belong to a cult. And I'm like, I don't belong to it. What are you talking about? They're like, what'd you do today? I'm like, I drank the blood and ate the flesh of a dead man. I see what you're saying. It does seem odd, but the reality is I'm not. And so they all came to my baptism. All right, and I'm like, see, and I don't know how you guys got baptized, but when I was getting baptized in this Baptist church, it's not how we do it, right? We do it cool. We do it with jeans. We do it like it's 40 degrees in the Pacific Ocean. We just baptized 40 people, 40 degrees in the Pacific Ocean on a pier, all right? And when that happens, man, and the reason we do that is because what is baptism supposed to feel like? You know, you're dying, like they die down there. And they're like, and that's like baptism. That's like I died, I came to life. That's what this is. But when I got baptized, I mean, some of you guys, you do it in the warm bubblies. You guys are a joke. What are you talking about? What kind of that's not baptism. That's a day at the beach. You're just chilling out. And so when I got baptized, I showed up and there was this big choir robe, right? And all my buddies come and they're coming and getting baptized. I walk out and I come out, I look like a kid at like the Christmas pageant. And I'm like, hey, everyone. My buddies are like, that's weird, man. I'm like, what are you talking about? This ain't a cult, all right? People criticize. If you don't understand your why enough, that God has called me to this, no matter what happens circumstantially in my life, you will fail, you will die under criticism.